friend.
I'm alive.
Yes. Well, welcome to another episode of Case File
with Kat
and Ashley.
I'm trying not to sound too sick.
Guys, she's in a mask and she... Oh, you sound fine.
I look sad. You
look very sad. You do look very, very sad, but you sound fine.
I'm in my own home in a mask.
But anyway.
I go to Belize and I came back with COVID. Yay! But, I'm on the mend. It's all good. I'm on the mend.
And it's not your week, so
yay! You just get to hear me do nothing.
But when I tell my story, guys, I was trying to get a hold of Kat because I thought we were going to record last week and I could not get a hold of her. I thought they were coming back on Monday. I was wrong. So I was freaking out because when you hear my story, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense right now. So anyways, I watched too much true crime. I was messaging everyone. I was like, where is Kat? But Sarah was about to call the U.S. whatever ambassador in Belize.
The embassy, seriously? Yes. It's so funny. I had my phone not on. Jason was the one taking pictures, and so I was like, I have to disconnect. And so I see your text messages, and I'm like, I'm fine.
I know, but for whatever reason, I thought you guys said you were coming back Monday, and you were not here Monday, so I watched way too much true crime. Anywho.
Hi.
I guess we should just dive in.
Let's do it.
So the question of the week was, what is your favorite random fact?
Oh, well, that's going to have to be, we passed by 36 murders in our lifetime, because that scares the shit out of me. I probably passed by several in Belize. No, I'm just kidding.
Most definitely.
On the plane.
Everywhere, especially in the airport. Oh my God, there's so many people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, crazy.
So my favorite random fact is the Pegomastax dinosaur.
Is the what?
The Pegomastax.
Okay.
Dinosaur.
All right.
It was described as a cross between a parrot and a porcupine, and it had these feet with little teeth that kind of sharpen. Oh, sorry, that sharpen themselves against each other. What? I love dinosaurs. I am a dinosaur fanatic.
I need to see a picture of that. That sounds awesome.
So most of my random facts are usually about dinosaurs or stuff like that.
You and Anderson should talk. He's into that stuff.
I love it.
I love it.
I love dinosaurs.
So guys, I came back tan, and nobody knows it because I didn't leave my house for a week. So that it was such a bummer. I looked so beautiful and golden, and now I'm like, meh. But it was so much fun.
I'm glad you had fun. You definitely needed it. I'm glad. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you didn't die. Glad we didn't have to start a search for you and you were the next episode.
Me too.
So I did a little bit of trivia before this story. Just things that I found interesting and also slightly concerning, and just thought I would share them with people.
Yay. So we should is this going to make us all scared?
I don't know if it's going to make you all scared, but it should make you pay attention to things like Amber Alerts and stuff like that.
Oh, always good reminder. Yeah.
Medical examiners and coroner's offices in the U.S. hold more than 40,000 sets of unidentified remains.
What?
That number is large enough to represent a small city. So there's 40,000 Jane and John Does that have never been identified in coroner's offices across the country.
Wow. So, the John Wayne Gacy, there are still bodies, I think 8 right now, that have never been identified. And they were all, back then it was all the runaways. And so, there's 8 of those anyway. And I'm sure that's,
yeah.
Man, that's tough.
Yeah. In most of the developing world, including Africa, Asia, and Latin America, no one is counting missing children. Additionally, there are no specific laws on missing children, no established protocol, and no central missing child registries. There's no law saying people have to report missing children, and no real systems to respond once reported. And I did fact check that one because I was like, that is a bold statement.
That is really bold.
To say that there's no laws and like they're not counting. And it's true. They, at least in the ones that they mentioned, I did look at those three, and they don't really have any kind of like, nothing like here where there's
like a national registry.
Yeah, there's nothing. They don't have to report children missing. So I thought that was kind of interesting and crazy. Yeah. So Japan has the 7th highest rate of international parental abductions involving U.S. children.
What?
Mexico ranks the first. Other countries that
parental
abductions involving U.S. children. So like, not necessarily like, I don't think it means like Japanese coming here and taking U.S. children. It means like that's where parents flee to. Like,
so number one, they go to Mexico.
So like, yeah. So number one, they go to Mexico. It says other countries that are I always mess this word up.
Cooperative.
Yes. In returning abducted children to the U.S. Is India, Honduras, Russia, and Switzerland. They all, it's very difficult to get a child returned that's involved in a parental abduction in those countries.
Oh my gosh. And it's probably Mexico from the US because it's the closest.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot that don't, I mean, they don't even send criminals, you know? So like they're not,
they don't extradite.
Yeah. And so I mean, I guess that carries across for the
Switzerland is the same. Yeah. Honduras is that. Russia is like that. Yeah. It's not criminals. Yeah.
So Frank Ahern, which is a skip tracer, a term for people who find others. So like, a skip tracer is like someone that goes and finds like people who are missing, or like not really like kind of like a bounty hunter, but not to bring them in for a bounty. Like he's looking for missing people.
Wow. Like a sleuth.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says that people intentionally go missing for usually 2 main reasons: money or danger. Men usually leave because of money, and women because of danger. While the bulk of international disappearance were once men, more and more women choose to bail out. So like I disagree. He finds the women or men, like he finds the missing people, and they've told him that they have intentionally disappeared. They were either fleeing danger, they were fleeing because of money, they were fleeing because of something. But he says like, when he does find people, most of them say they intentionally left and disappeared.
Wow. That's interesting that he's able to find them, but the police aren't.
Well,
I mean,
you know,
I know. So I'm just saying.
I don't know if you just heard yourself, but
I'm just stating the audience. I'm sorry. How long have we been doing a true crime podcast?
So the first child in the United States to be recovered using the Amber Alert was Ray Lee Bradbury, when she was abducted at 8 weeks old in November 1998 in Texas. As of May 1st, 2022, 1,114 children have been successfully recovered through the Amber Alert program, and 123 children were rescued because of wireless emergency alerts. That's like texting, you know, the signs that you see. There are 82 Amber Alert plans through the United States. It's also been proven that Amber Alerts serve as a deterrent to those who take children, as many perpetrators release the child after seeing the Amber Alert, because there's so much attention now on the child, like looking for the child. So that's what I'm saying. Like when you get those Amber Alerts, I know so many people get so annoyed by them, or like, oh, I don't even live in that city. Yeah, but the people that take those children are not staying in that city. So please pay attention to those. The Wireless Emergency Alert Program is operated by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and it distributes notifications from authorized federal, state, local, and tribal government agencies that alert customers with capable devices of imminent threats to safety or of an emergency situation. And so they're meant to kind of implement the existing emergency alert system and the Amber Alerts and stuff like that.
I will say that since we've been doing this show, that when an Amber Alert comes in, I make a point to read it.
Yes.
Is it that close? Is it something, you know, like, is it Houston or is it Denton, which is hours and hours and hours away?
Yeah.
You know, like I'm just more aware, and I'm like, okay, that's, and now I know, like, it's not something I just dismiss.
Yeah.
And and I think that I was guilty of that, but now I'm like, oh, I should be paying more attention.
You never know.
If it were my kid, I would want people to fucking pay attention. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the FBI designates severe urgent missing person cases as endangered or involuntary. Approximately 15% of all missing person cases are given that classification each year. Most of them are applied to children, so like missing children. But only 15% of missing persons cases are deemed endangered or involuntary. And then the last one is, at any given time, an estimated 90,000 people are missing in the United States.
At any given
men,
time.
women, children, at any given time. Intentional or otherwise, they are missing. Okay. Wow. So if you haven't guessed by now, I'm doing my favorite kind of story. Disappearance. Okay. So I'm just gonna... Some of you may have heard of this case. I originally saw it years ago on like an ID channel, and I didn't really listen to too much of the details. They just did a very brief overview of it. And so I started doing the research on it because I saw someone talking about it on like another podcast. I was like, oh yeah, I remember, it was very interesting. And so her name is Katelin Akens, and Katelin was a 19-year-old from Virginia who was described as thoughtful, compassionate, and friendly. She was a very family-oriented person, and she texted and called her family all the time, especially her mother, Lisa, and her sister, Gabby. Like, she was always in contact with them, like texting them, calling them, like they never went a day without some kind of communication.
Yeah.
So she had moved to Arizona after she graduated high school to be with her fiance, Amber. So Amber and Katelin had gone to school together. When they were younger. And Amber had moved away, but the two of them had stayed in touch. Like they were friends. They always communicated. And eventually that turned into a romantic relationship. And Katelin decided to move to Arizona to be with Amber. And then, of course, they eventually got engaged. And so pretty much everyone they talked to in this case, so that Katelin had such a beautiful life. Like, she was happy. She graduated school. She had this fiance that she really liked. She basically wasn't the type to just disappear. So the events surrounding the day she went missing have been super sketch from day one, like super sketchy. And it's still technically unsolved, even though they're pretty sure they knew who did it. And as I tell you the story, you're going to be like, obviously this is who did it. But they can't. I always
think that, and then you like throw in a wrench in the whole thing, and I'm like, oh God, deal with it.
But there's no, it's still unsolved.
Okay. That sucks.
They've never found her, so they can't technically.
No body, no crime.
Yeah. So Katelin and her sister Gabby were very close, like I mentioned, always texting. So Gabby had given birth to a baby boy on November 21st, 2015, which made Katelin super excited. And so she wanted to fly out. She wanted to meet the new nephew. And she'd even been accepted into this cosmetology school where she needed her high school diploma, which was at her mom's house. So she's like, okay, I'm going to fly down there. I'm going to see my nephew. I'm going to get my diploma, come back. So she was...
Gabby was older?
Gabby, I think Gabby was her younger sister.
Oh, okay.
But so... the plan was to fly in, stay a few days, fly out. I think the school started like December 7th or something. Okay. So on December 1st, she flew to Virginia and headed straight to Gabby's. Gabby said while she was there, she shared her own exciting news. Like, she got into cosmetology school. She was super excited for this new adventure. Like, she was like really, really pumped. And so,
did she go by herself to see Gabby? She
flew by herself. Right. Amber was still in Arizona. So her flight back home was scheduled for December 5th. So she was only going to be there for a couple of days, but she never made it to the airport, and no one has seen her alive since.
Since December 1st, since she got to Gabby's.
December 4th is the last day.
Okay.
So after December 4th, no one has seen her since. She never made it to the airport. She never, December 5th, the morning of December 5th is the last time anyone saw her. She never made it to the airport, never been seen alive, never been heard from since then. Yeah.
I can see why she was scared that I didn't connect with her before leaving Belize.
Yes. So her plan was she was going to go by her mother's and get her diploma before heading to the airport. So that day, her mother was supposed to take her to the airport. So between the 1st and the 5th, she'd been hanging out with friends, like people she hadn't seen in a while. And so, that day she was going to go get the diploma. Her mom was going to take her to the airport. Everything was going to be fine. However, on that day, her mother, Lisa, could not get the day off. Whoever was supposed to take her couldn't make it. So Lisa asked Katelin's ex-stepfather,
oh God,
James Breton, to drive Katelin to Washington's Reagan National Airport. So he agreed, but stated that he would have to drop her off early at 1 p.m. since he had a shift at 3 p.m. Like, he had to be at work. So he was going to drop her off early if she was okay with that, which she said that's fine. So Katelin's biological father had left when she was a baby, and Lisa had married James when Katelin was 7. And so even though they were divorced, they divorced 6 years after they got married, but that was the only father Katelin had ever known. Mm-hmm. And they were super close. Even after the divorce, they were still all on friendly terms. He continued to celebrate holidays with Katelin and her sister Gabby. Like, they were very, very close. Okay. So despite the seemingly close relationship, Katelin had told her friends she felt uncomfortable around James, that he made her nervous, and that he was verbally abusive. Now, I don't know if her mother knew this fact, because nowhere did it ever mention that her mother knew this. It all came from her friends. I'm assuming she didn't want to tell her mother because she didn't want to upset her mother. But she said that he had always been kind of verbally abusive to her. And it was kind of hinted it was more or less because of her lifestyle choices of being engaged to a woman. Mm-hmm.
Love is love, y'all. Yeah. Love is love.
It didn't flat out say that, but that is the general vibe that all of the articles gave, is that he didn't approve of this. So at 9:20 a.m., Lisa dropped Katelin off at James's house. This would be the last time she ever saw her. So according to James, they were supposed to leave for the airport around 1 p.m. And he said that, hey, everything was great. We spent the morning talking. She was telling me about Arizona. She was telling me about the cosmetology school. He said that she was so excited about taking this next big step in her life. Yeah. Just everything was great. He said, like, they just spent the morning catching up from 9:20 until they were supposed to leave at 1. So shortly after being dropped off at James's house, just a whole series of bizarre texts were sent supposedly by Katelin, though, as I'll mention later, her mom and Gabby, and basically no one believes they actually were her. Okay. So out of nowhere,
they don't? Okay.
No one believes they were from her. Nobody.
Because it just didn't sound like her. It
didn't sound like her. It wasn't her voice. It had punctuation issues, and she was very meticulous about that kind of stuff. It was, and I'll explain a little bit more later, but it was like one message and then another, like one worded messages, like after, where they said normally she did thought out sentences and thoughts, not like one line for each thing. You know what I'm talking about? So,
like a full paragraph text.
Yeah, versus,
I'm here.
Yeah.
I forgot to call you.
Right.
And then,
And so there was just a lot of inconsistencies. So out of nowhere at 11:52 a.m., this is a little over 2 hours after she had been dropped off, Katelin messaged Amber that something had come up and that she wouldn't be able to catch her flight. She also said that she wouldn't be able to text her for a while. But that's kind of strange, because, like, why wouldn't you call your fiance and tell them why you weren't catching your flight? Why wouldn't you say, hey, instead of just saying, hey, something came up, right? So that was the first red flag.
For sure.
But Amber was just like, okay, I guess. And like basically kind of confused, but she wasn't yet worried. So she had also said that she wouldn't be able to text her for a while. But at 1:52 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. But at 1:52 p.m., James texted Lisa, Katelin's mom, that he had dropped Katelin off at the airport and everything was fine. But then he tells her, oh no, I dropped her off at the Springfield Town Center, and he claimed that she wanted to kill some time at the mall before her 5:40 p.m. flight.
What?
And that she had planned to take the metro from the mall to the airport. So then Lisa said, well, how was traffic? And he said, not too bad. And this did kind of strike Lisa as odd, because Katelin had never been to that mall, and she also hated the metro. She went on the metro once when she was 6 and didn't know how to operate it. So she was like, okay, well, but maybe. But at 2 p.m., so 8 minutes later, Lisa got a message from Katelin, supposedly from Katelin, that said she was at the airport and her phone battery was dying, so she wouldn't be able to text her for a while.
So we all know who did this right now. Like, everybody's like, it's him. Right.
So this immediately struck Lisa as odd because the commute from the mall to the airport was over an hour. So if James had dropped her off at 1 p.m. and she wanted to kill time before her flight, how was she already at the airport by 2? And so also, again, Lisa claimed...
Dude, I'm glad she's noticing all these little inconsistencies.
And so, Lisa also, like I said, she said, Katelin hadn't been on the metro since she was 6. She didn't like it. It was not like her to travel to unfamiliar places. Like she had like anxiety, right? Like she wouldn't just go somewhere she's never been by herself when she's about to be at an airport, right? So the 2 p.m. text from Katelin's phone to her mother said, "I'm at the airport, battery dying, so won't be able to text for a bit." To which Lisa responded, "Okay, let me know when you get on the plane." Shortly after this text to her mom, Amber receives another text from Katelin that said, "There was a problem with the flight and I have a new connection," which Amber was so confused because the first text she got said Katelin wasn't even getting on the flight, right? She said something came up, I'm not going to be able to make it back on flight. And now she's getting another message hours later saying there was an issue and she was waiting on a new connection.
That seems so sus.
Right. And she's in Arizona, so she doesn't know what's going on. And at this point, she knew that something was wrong. Like, she said, you said you weren't getting on the plane and then suddenly you're getting on the plane, but there was an issue with the connecting flight. So Amber tries to call and text Katelin, but never got a response. So she calls Lisa and says, "Hey, I got these messages from Katelin. She said she wasn't originally getting on the plane and then she was getting on the plane and there's issues, like what's going on?" And Lisa was like, "No, she told me she was on the plane." So like immediate red flags went up. So worried. And at this point, Lisa starts calling Gabby. She starts calling other family members to see if they had gotten a hold of Katelin. They tried to call her several times. They messaged her. They couldn't get a hold of her, so they requested that the airport officials call her name, like over the intercom system to see if she was just at the airport and for whatever reason not getting on her flight. But no one ever came. No one ever responded to the phone calls. No one ever responded to the
He was the last person with her. How is this man not arrested?
But unfortunately, no one could get a hold of Katelin. Yeah, I know. Like I said, it seems very open and shut, but as you go on, you'll hear that's not even the weirdest part of this story. So Lisa then calls James and asks if he knew anything about Katelin.
Oh my God.
Of course, No, I dropped her off. I don't know what you're talking about. She wanted to know if she had been acting weird or said anything strange while they were together. And this is where shit just gets even crazier because now he's got to, in my opinion, cover up all of these lies. So he's,
oh my God.
James hadn't dropped her off at the airport. What? As I mentioned, he dropped her off at the mall, supposedly, right?
Okay.
So Katelin had never been to that mall, nor did she want to ride the metro. So none of this made sense to her mother.
She doesn't seem like the mall kind of.
Yeah, she was like, her mom was just like, no, none of this makes sense. Why did she ask you to go? Like she was asking him, why did she want to go to the mall? So a few hours go by. It's around 7:15. Lisa suddenly gets another message from Katelin after talking to James.
Suddenly, shocking.
Katelin, this is like what the text say. Okay, Katelin. Okay. So staying with a friend.
What?
Next text, I need some time alone.
What?
Lisa was like, call me. I'm very worried about you. And then a third message that said, please call me. So Lisa's beginning to panic at this point because this was so out of character for Katelin. She was very family oriented.
Okay, did they do where the cell tower was pinged?
Yes, I'm going to talk about all of that.
James's
Yes.
phone also was it also pinging at the same place?
I'm going to tell you all.
Oh my God!
I'm going to tell you all of that.
This is driving me crazy.
I'm going to tell you all of that. So she
right,
is like,
I just feel like everyone is listening, going.
I love how earlier she's like,
God.
I'm not going to talk a lot because I'm feeling sick, but she is like, This case is infuriating.
This is infuriating. And I know that I am not alone. I can just tell. I can feel everybody's energy going, this is stupid.
So her mother is in full panic mode because now she knows somebody's lying, be it Katelin, be it someone who took Katelin, be it James. I don't think at this point she thought it was James, right? Like she just genuinely thought her daughter went missing from the mall or the airport or something. But she is really panicking. She said, like, it's not like her because she's very close with Gabby and her mom. She hadn't had any arguments with anybody while she was in town. She's never said anything like needing time alone when she's supposed to be flying back to Arizona. And then not answering her phone, not catching her flight. None of this was sitting right with Lisa. Like she immediately knew. So something else that bothered Lisa was the pattern of the messaging. Like I said, Katelin preferred formulating her thoughts in like a single paragraph or a single text, but the messages she was receiving were split into multiple texts, and that's just not something Katelin had ever done. So a short time later, after Lisa got these texts, Amber received a Facebook message from Katelin that read, "I can't come back. I cheated on you."
What?
Yeah. So Amber was like, no, immediately no. Like Katelin is not the type of person which props to her because a lot of people would have immediately gone like angry and like, whatever. No. But she was immediately like, no, Katelin is not the type to do that. She would not have messaged this to me. She would have told me in person if it were true, but she's not even the type of person to do this. So I don't believe it. And so, and they had no issues in their life. Like they were both making these huge steps forward. They were about to get married. Katelin was about to start her job. Amber had a really great job. There was nothing, like she said, they literally had nothing going on. And so both Lisa and Amber insisted that these messages did not sound like Katelin. They claimed her punctuation was off. The messages were short. They were very cold. So Lisa tried calling Katelin several more times, and each time her phone went straight to voicemail. She then contacted the airport, who informed her that Katelin never boarded her flight.
Oh my God.
So even more disturbing, the surveillance footage proved that Katelin was never at the airport, nor was she at the mall on the day she disappeared. But in a shocking twist to every true crime fan that's listening, neither was James nor his vehicle. I know you guys were just... I know you guys thought that James was there.
Shocking. That is not shocking at all.
So James, his vehicle, Katelin, no signs of them at any of the mall entrances, the mall parking lot, the road to the mall, or at the metro, or at the airport.
Give me those give me access to those cameras. Give me access. I'm gonna do a Zootopia. You know how they're like, oh, well, if he went from here, he's gonna have to. There's cameras everywhere.
So there was no signs of either one of them ever being at any of these places. Not even a chance that they were like snuck in. No signs of them anywhere. So, at this point,
that drink? You like that cocktail?
I do. It's very needed for this story.
Jason made her a nice strawberry daiquiri cocktail. So nice. He's such a good producer.
Yes, very good.
Make sure we're drinking.
Guys, I literally said no like 10 times.
You did.
So, anyways,
we're forcing our bad habits. Okay, go. Sorry.
I'm also never playing cards here again. Anyways, story for another time. Anyways, so Lisa and Gabby immediately went to the police department after learning, like, all of these things, like text messages not making sense, phone calls not answering. She never made it on her flight. The police refused to make a file. They said, well, Katelin's 19. She's allowed to go missing if she wants to. The officers referred to Katelin as having and I quote, teenager moment, and she would be back.
God damn it. Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. Oh. So they wouldn't listen to them. They wouldn't create a file. They wouldn't report her missing. They wouldn't look into any of it. They wouldn't look at their surveillance. They didn't go check James's house. So 2 days later, and this next thing I'm about to tell you is the only reason they looked into this case. So 2 weeks later, a work crew for the Virginia Department of Transportation was working, and they found Katelin's suitcase in a drainage ditch on River Road, which was about 50 miles from the mall and only 20 miles from James's house. The suitcase was covered in scuff marks, missing a wheel as though it had been thrown out of a moving vehicle. Katelin's ID, bank card, phone charger, toothbrush, and a return ticket home were all found inside her suitcase. Her phone, her clothes, glasses, and high school diploma, which is what she needed for the cosmetology school, were all missing.
Oh
Almost
God.
like it was a setup to look like she took her diploma and ran away.
And ran.
The discovery of the suitcase began a very intense investigation that uncovered several more lies by James. I know we're all shocked right now.
I'm totally not, but go ahead.
Before we talk about that, though, I wanted to point out there was a body that was found a few miles away from the suitcase, and they originally believed, based on the age, hair color, tattoos, and the bill, that this was Katelin. But an autopsy report identified the body of Heather Sistone. I don't know if that's how you say her name.
Sure.
That's how it looks. But I mean, no disrespect. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but that's what it looks like. So Heather was found in a car with a gunshot wound to her head. And to this day, a suspect or person of interest still hasn't been released. But finding Heather caused a panic in the community because people believed that this was a serial killer targeting young women because the similarities between Katelin and Heather were just uncanny. I mean, they looked very similar, like too hard to say it wasn't, in their mind, to say it was a coincidence. So this is a quote from a citizen at the time when the newspapers interviewed them. And it says, "It sounds as if there may be yet another serial killer in Spotsylvania County." So this comment was in reference to Richard Evanitz, which was a career criminal that committed suicide in 2002 after police sought him out for questioning in connection with a number of crimes, including the deaths of 3 girls in Spotsylvania County. However, the police did invalidated this theory, saying it wasn't a serial killer. Like these are unfortunately 2 totally separate cases. There's not a suspect in either case, but they're not related. So the search for Katelin was set for a 30-mile radius. They had multiple search parties. They had helicopters, heat sensors, people walking, ATVs, all of that. There was nothing useful ever found. Police began checking their surveillance footage for themselves, and they checked the mall, they checked the metro station, they checked the airport, and I'm quoting here when I say, to their surprise, but were they, I mean, the mother literally told them all of this information, and this is like true crime 101. But anyways, to their surprise, quote, they found no video evidence of Katelin, James, or his car.
What?
I know. The police also checked the phone records of James and Katelin and found several discrepancies. Who'da thunk it? So at around 2 p.m. when Katelin texted Lisa that she was at the airport, the phone connected to a tower 30 miles away from the airport, which was closer to James's house. Around the same time,
dig that backyard up.
Around the same time, when James texted that he had dropped Katelin off, his phone also pinged closer to his house. And when I say closer to his house, as in he never left his house.
Oh my God.
So it was not the exact same place as where Katelin's phone pinged. Katelin's last text to Lisa was sent from Stafford, which is about 15 miles away from where her suitcase was found. But on phone records alone, it was proven that Katelin never made it to the airport or the mall, and that they definitely felt James was involved because, again, their phones pinged close together, never really left his immediate area. Right. Well, I mean, they have to do their investigation, right?
I'm doing investigation in quotes.
I feel like everyone's already solved this case except for the police.
I'm just saying.
But
okay.
I'm not saying all police are bad. Please don't take it that way. But when we do these stories, these police are not great.
I mean, just
in these stories.
The internet sleuths. Let's solve this thing.
So, of course, police and pretty much everyone suspected James. He was the last person to see her live, but he stopped cooperating after more evidence started coming out that just did not look good for him. So the police checked with James's employer because, as you remember, he was supposed to be there for a shift at 3 p.m., which is why he was dropping her off at 1 p.m. So the employer said he didn't come back that day. And not only did he not come back that day, he just never showed up again. He no call, no show that day.
God.
Never came back. James had also used his own encrypted operating system on his phone, and the police could not analyze it. So he was a very smart IT person. So when he got his phone, he overrode the system that was on the phone with his own designed operating system and encrypted it. And they brought in experts. They brought in all kinds of people, and nobody could crack it. And he wouldn't tell them the password. And there was the same system was on Katelin's phone. So the authorities...
And she would not have had that. She would not have had... She's 19. This is the most infuriating story.
The authorities issued a search warrant for his house, and they spent 8 hours searching. Mind you, this is a week later, maybe. Searching, but found nothing. He refused to take a polygraph test and refused to give his password to his phone or his computer to the police. So, the officer started talking to Katelin's friends to find out more about her as a person, and this is when they found out that, she was uncomfortable around James. But this is also when they found out that during this December 1st to December 5th trip, Katelin had a threesome. So, while the friends involved in this threesome assert that it was consensual, Kevin, which is Katelin's best friend, told a very different story. Kevin told them that on December 4th, the day before she was supposed to leave, that Katelin had gone out with two friends. Katelin had told him there was a lot of drinking and that the two friends, in a polite way, I'm going to say, forced themselves on her.
That's called rape.
There were questions as to whether this may have prompted her to leave, but her family didn't believe that, as they saw her on the morning of the 5th and she was fine. And they, they don't know if maybe she said something to James about it, and that's why he texted Amber what he texted or messaged her about her cheating. But it really did, the whole thing made it look like she intentionally ran away, right? The suitcase and then the diploma missing. But they're like, if she did throw her own suitcase, she threw it out of a moving car. So who was driving the car, right? Because she didn't have one. So it still would have had to have been someone who was taking her.
Yeah, she didn't have her suitcase with her at all times.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and so there were messages on her phone, but again, it was encrypted. They felt like these messages would answer their questions. However, they could never get into the messages because, again, they did not have the passwords. So when I say they brought in all kinds of experts, I mean the best experts they could get. And however he designed it and encrypted it, they could not get into these systems. So Kevin, the best friend, also told officers that James was abusive and that he had verbally abused Katelin for every minor mistake. He speculated that Katelin's sexual preference and lifestyle was the main reason. However, all of this information led nowhere because they still could not locate Katelin, and James still would not give them any information. So the fact that only Katelin's diploma and her clothes were missing, while everything else was left in the suitcase, created a lot of theories about what happened. So while most of them sounded very excessive, there were a few that were more thought out. The most popular theory was that Katelin left on her own accord, which is why she only took her diploma and clothes, because she was just going to make a new lifestyle somewhere else. The reason for her actually leaving in this theory is heavily debated, though. Some people believe that she just wasn't happy with her life and wanted to be somewhere else, which in my mind doesn't make sense because literally everyone, there's not a single person who said she wasn't happy. And she had she just got accepted into the school that she wanted. She flew home to get it. She had a new nephew. She was engaged. It does not sound to me like it's someone who wasn't happy with their life and wanting to go somewhere else. So some speculated that she felt guilty for cheating on Amber and fled, even though it wasn't really cheating on her behalf. I mean, she was raped. And then others thought that Katelin met someone and wanted to leave everything behind to be with this person and start a new life. But I mean, again, if that was the case, where did she go? Because she has kind of a unique look, very identifying tattoos and stuff. I feel like somebody You know what I mean? Like all these years, somebody would have seen her.
Yeah.
And where did she meet him? Because she didn't meet him at the mall. So like, did James would have had to take her somewhere. So where did he drop her off? If it wasn't at the mall.
His backyard.
Yeah, so none of that makes any sense. I mean, that would be the assumption that he actually did drop her off at the mall, and then maybe she met someone after he left, right? That would make sense. But none of that happened. She never left his house. Like, I mean, within a certain mile radius of his house. So
I like
none of those theories make sense.
Dig up his backyard. Is there a well? Is there?
No, none of the things I read said anything about his yard, so I don't know if they even checked his yard.
Well,
they just said they searched his house for 8 hours and didn't find anything. A week later, after.
Look, I just watched Buried in the Backyard episodes. So I'm like, it's in the backyard.
I mean, she could have been anywhere. I mean, he had over a week to hide her body.
That's so true.
Anyways, so I'm sorry, I lost my place.
This story is aggravating.
Okay, so again, Katelin's family insists that she would never do anything like that. She was very close to her sister and mother. So if something was happening, she at the very least would have told her sister, hey, I'm not happy. I want to start over. Like she never would have just disappeared from everyone without a trace like that. So the Aware Foundation for Missing People installed a billboard on James's route to work in 2021. Yeah. So this case is still very active. That's another reason why I'm covering it. So in 2021, they put up a billboard because for 6 months from the time he quit his job or just no-showed, he didn't work at all anywhere, which people are also like, why didn't he work for 6 months? Like, but when he got a new job, this foundation put up billboards along his route to work, hoping that if nothing else, it would embarrass him into talking to the investigators. Did not work because he still hasn't talked. So seeing her face up there, I'm hoping he sees it and he has to think about that every day, says Lisa. She went on to say the billboard is just such a great idea. Again, it just lets people know she's still missing. I think people forget that. It shows that we are still trying to find her, and hopefully the people see it and somebody would know something and call the number. So Lisa and other family members, they continue to search for her to this day. She wishes that they could just find her body at this point, right? She's like, she said, at least I'd know she was dead. I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Where is she? Not knowing is the absolute worst. But again, James won't say anything. He insists he has no idea about any of this. And so when they asked why he called no showed to work that day, he had no answer. Or at least an answer that they never revealed his answer if he gave them an answer. So the Aware Foundation promotes, just a little bit of information about that. So the Aware Foundation promotes safety awareness and assists in the locating of and advocacy of missing and endangered people. Their Facebook is active and it posts information about missing people, like who to contact, what they were last seen wearing, where they were. It's a very active page, and if you're into that, I would suggest following this page because, again, you never know when you'll save a life. You'll never know when you'll see somebody.
I'm totally looking them up right now. Yeah,
Aware is all capitalized. It's the Aware Foundation. But they post missing flyers. They post updated information. They just really help families try to find people. So James still remains a suspect, and he is literally the only suspect in this case. As stated, he never returned to his job that he had at that time. Like from the day he was supposed to drop Katelin off, he no-called, no-showed and never went back. So he stopped speaking to the family immediately, and he refused to help with the investigation and lawyered up almost immediately.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Before the search warrant ever happened, he had already lawyered up. So Katelin is still missing at this time. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5'4", between 120 and 145 weight-wise. And the reason I say between is because quite a few things said like 120-ish, but there were a few that said 145, so just general range, 120 to 145 pounds. She had short blonde hair, and she has very distinctive tattoos. She has 5 butterflies on her arm and 3 stars on the right foot. She has her belly button pierced, her nose and lip are also pierced. And so if Katelin was alive today, like in 2022, she would be 25 years old. And so without evidence of an actual crime, without actual evidence or a body, the police can't close this case and they can't charge James with anything. One of the police did say that it's very rare that you charge someone without a body, but that he really felt that James did it and he wished they could, but they just don't have enough evidence to convince a jury. I mean, there's really nothing. So without evidence or the body, the police can't close the case. So again, if you have any information, say something. So there's currently a $2,500 reward for leads through the Spotsylvania's, which is the county where all of this happened, through their Crime Stoppers. There's several billboards up, but there is one in her last known location. And they also broadcasted a TV program about Katelin's disappearance in September 2021. There was an ID channel episode, lots of other podcasts talking about this case. And there are several Facebook groups created for trying to help it. The biggest one is Help Find Katelin Akens, whereas Katelin Akens, and there's others, and they're all pretty active, and they talk about different, parts of the case, updates, things like that. And so if anyone has any information about Katelin Akens, and I'll post the pictures on our Facebook page, or you can look her up, or if you know anything about the disappearance or where she might be right now, people are asked to contact the FBI by calling 804-261-1044 or to contact the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office. Her family is still looking for her to this day. Like I said, this happened in 2015 and we're in 2022 and her family is still actively trying to find her. They have not given up after all this time. And basically her mom said that she's not going to give up until there's a body or they know what happened to her. So that's my story.
Oh my God, that is one of the most aggravating stories because there's so much. And they always say the first 48 are the most important. And her mom
they tried
sounding that alarm right away.
They tried, and the police again were basically like, well, she's being a teenager. She's free to run away. And
that is just not common.
I feel
runaways are normally throwaways. She was not a throwaway.
Well, not just that, but I feel like runaways tend to leave some signs they're going to run away, right? Like they're not, like her best friend didn't know. Why would she fly to Virginia? Like she probably would have not gotten on the first flight. Or there's just lots of weird things about this case. First off, the way she was texting is not her. The encrypted software. James didn't go to work that day and never went back
for 6 months.
And then never left his house really. And there's no footage of how much more evidence do you need to know that this man did it? Right? But he swears he's innocent. So,
so search parties on his property.
I don't know if they searched. I didn't see anything that said they searched his property, just that they searched his actual house.
That is such bullshit.
Inside of his house, they searched for 8 hours.
Cadaver dogs on his fucking property. This is one of the most frustrating stories.
If there were
just because there's so much evidence left on the table.
If there were cadaver dogs, none of the articles mentioned them.
So we would know that. They mention that stuff.
And like I said, these are very recent articles because it's a still very active case. The billboards just went up in 2021. So he's still not giving any information. And to me, that's just insane. Come on, you you did it. How does the guilt not eat you up? You know what I mean?
How do you sleep at night? Right.
I just don't see, and this is just me interjecting my personal opinion. I don't see how anyone else could be involved. You're literally the last person that saw her. She never made it where you said she made it.
You are it. Her phone's pinging from your house. Yeah.
Your phone is encrypted and if you're innocent, why wouldn't you just show, what are you hiding on your phone that's so bad, worse than being accused of kidnapping and killing your stepdaughter?
You probably raped her too. I bet her homosexuality was a threat to him, and he probably thought she was hot. Do you want to read the answers to your question of the week?
So let's lighten up a little bit. The question again was post any random fact below. I asked for your favorite one. So Laura says, my kiddo is the reigning champion of random facts. Just the other day, I was driving them somewhere and they said, hey, Mom, did you know that sharks have 2 penises? And she said, why would I need to know this information? I said, I mean, that's an important fact, I guess. RC says dogs like squeaky toys because they mimic the screams of their prey. Well, all right.
That's interesting.
I said we were going to lighten the mood, but I guess we're just going to keep going. Sarah says, I thought this was a fun fact for the true crime loving folks. Koalas have fingerprints that are nearly indistinguishable from humans. To which I replied, so what you're saying is a koala bear can murder someone and then we'll think it's human. Got it.
Oh my God.
And then Hillary said, oh God, how do you guys going to use words? You know, I can't say. Ribosomes? How do you say
Sure. That's
make proteins.
Ribosomes?
Whatever. I don't know. Guys, I can't speak
It looks
English.
like ribosomes.
The fun fact, this was like something I used to blather on about as a drunk biology major. And those are the answers. We did have some people go back and answer old question of the week. So thank you. We love that because we go back and read those answers and we love them. So just some other stuff. We had someone message our page. So that was super exciting. Brad, if you're listening, thank you for listening. He's the one that messaged our page about one of the stories that Kat did a while back. And was telling us that like who to reach out to maybe as a guest to come on and talk about that particular story. I don't want to give it away because I think it would be fun as a kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
So we did reach out to him to see how to get in contact with this person so she can come and give her side of the story that we covered. And then we had some people message for the listener episode we're going to do in a couple of weeks. And yeah, so we're going to be doing a listener episode for our 150th. So if you have something that happened to you, like a paranormal story, some kind of true crime thing that happened in your city or to you or whatever, message it to us. We'll tell it on air. We're very excited. We want to celebrate our fans for the 150th.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Send us beer suggestions, story suggestions, questions of the week. We're actually pretty organized. We've planned out our next couple of stories. Pretty.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with us.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, I'm impressed the spreadsheet's up to date, but that's not because of me. So, anyways.
What's up, season 5? We got it down.
So, so send us your stuff. We love you guys. Thank you.
All right, we love you. We will see you. Again, we have just a few more episodes until our 150th episode. So stay tuned. Yes. Send us your stories and
likes and all the things.
I've got a crazy, frustrating story next week. So God, just come and hang out and bring extra
alcohol.
Bring extra because it's going to be one of those. It's really just it blows your mind. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Thanks for still being around. If you're still listening, you know you love us. So thank you. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.